Hello, and welcome to Vector Club Weekly, Episode 5. Insert creative intro here. I'm sorry, guys, I'm way too tired to come up with a good intro this week, but we've got a jam-packed episode this week, so why don't I introduce everyone. My name, as always, is Rainbow Plasma, and today I am joined by Flutter Guy.
Hello.
Pinky Dash.
Hello.
And, of course, as always, Mr. Burned.
Yeah, it's me.
What the fuck was that? Burns in an extra happy mood today for some reason.
I'm only like brushing my ponytail right now, so it's okay.
Okay then.
Wait, you have an actual pony with a tail?
No, just my
Are you
hair.
hiding a pony in your house?
No, it's just my ponytail. It's only like 2 feet long. It's cool.
Alright, he's hiding a pony in his house.
Yeah.
You're off the podcast. Alright, anyways, so we're rambling here already. There's no news this week because nothing happened.
Woo! Hey!
Which is convenient
Yay.
because everybody's been really busy this week. So we've kind of only really had downtime, or at least, I'm speaking for everybody, but I've only had downtime right now to record the podcast.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
good that we don't have any news, but that means we can spend more time on like vector critiques and Q&As and the featured artist, which
Yay.
this week is a sir by the name of 90 Sigma, and he's got some really awesome stuff.
Yay.
He's one of the more well-known persons to vector inspectors, just because
Yes.
he interacts with the community in a lot of ways, background projects, and commenting on our stuff for the Vector Club Weekly. So I looked through his gallery, and actually Pinky Dash and I are working on something secret, like a secret collab with him and a couple other people.
Ooh.
So,
Well, it was secret until like right now.
so it's still a secret.
Way to go.
So it's a super not so secret collab.
Shh, you didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
No, but he's super awesome. I've talked to him. He likes to talk in the comments and feedback when we give him critiques and stuff when he submits his vectors, and I've worked with him personally. He's a cool guy. He treats constructive criticism really well.
So the stuff that 90 Sigma does is very specific. You can notice it if you go to his gallery. But basically, the main stuff that he does is 3 or 4 things. It's like Princess Luna, which is there's a lot of, Twilight, and then royal wedding stuff.
And Nightmare Moon.
Well, Nightmare Moon is Princess Luna, like close enough, right? I mean, don't tell her that
No.
because she'll
They're two
freak
different
out.
characters.
But like close enough. So yeah. So he does very specific stuff, but the stuff that he does with it is really, really cool because he doesn't just take, screen caps from the show and trace them. He will take a pose and then, put another character on that, or add a costume to it, or just
Something really cool that he does is he'll actually take multiple screenshots of multiple poses and then piece them together. He has an awkward-looking Cadence vector, and the awkward face from Cadence is when she turns around after she does her little shake dance. So he took that face and then put it on a posing Cadence, but it's actually like a posing Luna or something. He creates Frankenstein vectors, which are really cool.
Yeah, I try to do that. I try to do that as much as possible when I'm creating vectors. Like, for example, you'll get a really good body shot of a pony, but then like the head shot will be like horrible, or like the face will look really weird. So it's really good practice to kind of be able to mesh those things together, and I think he does that really well.
I do it a lot with requests.
Yeah.
Yeah, requests for like OCs and stuff. OCs,
Yeah.
you need to know how to do that.
Especially when you're looking for a unique pose for an OC and like you're just learning how to sketch, like finding and piecing together references is a really good way to understand proportions.
Right. So there's that first drawing that Byrne mentioned. Another one to kind of give a good example to that is one that I've brought up, which is called Nightmare Moon in Flight. And basically, there's that kind of, it's not famous, but I'm not using the right words here, but the famous pose by Cadence where she spreads her wings during the This Day Araya song. And
Are you saying it's famous because you did one?
Aria.
Araya, whatever, it doesn't matter. But anyways, it's a very well-known spread wing shot, and he took that and not only did it in Cadence, but did it for like Celestia and Luna and Nightmare Moon. And Nightmare Moon looks really cool because you can tell that the wings are definitely done all custom, and the mane is done all custom, while still keeping it a vector, of course. He's just used like vectored blurred effects and stuff like that. And I mean, Nightmare Moon is especially quite the hard one to do, because not only is there like not many reference shots for it, but she's just so complicated because, you know, she's a villain, so you have to make it complicated. So he does that really well, and he seems to kind of have that design down. And finally, the last one I wanted to point out was just this final one called Cadence and Twilight as Mare-Duel. And I think he's done a couple of these, but basically he just took the two, stuck them in a Mare-Duel costume. And it seems like it's got a little bit of custom faces, you know, custom costumes, a lot of stuff off of reference, but still does a pretty good job at keeping it quite show accurate.
Cadence in a Mare-Duel costume is adorable.
Yeah, I would have never put the two together, but now that they are, it's pretty awesome. And I think also the fantastic thing about 90 Sigma was, if you look back at his gallery, over half of the Royal Wedding stuff that he did was from before the episode even aired, like early April, or even, I believe there's one in there from like late March. So it's pretty amazing to see not only how early he got it out, but like how many he got out in such a short amount of time with like no references. So
is he one of our members that likes to partake in, like, used to partake in when an episode used to come out, like they would make the vectors of the episode, like
you
the
mean
day
the vector
of?
reservations?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I wasn't a big part of the vector reservations because I wasn't around long enough. Like I came in as a vector inspector right as those were ending, so I didn't get a chance to really participate in them as much. But yeah, 90 Sigma was actually, I looked back a little bit, and he has been a part of those, especially for that final episode. So that
was a lot of fun. It was crazy to see, like,
yeah, he did take a few of the ones I wanted to do.
I'd wait for the live streams to come up, or like them to be up, or the episodes to be uploaded on YouTube, so I could watch them. And then, like, 2 or 3 hours after they hit YouTube, there's like the vector or the reservations is like done. Like it was a race.
Yeah, it was all filled up, and then there was nothing good that I could take.
Yeah, I remember for the Royal Wedding one, actually, I went on the reservation list right after the live stream ended, and it was already like starting to fill up. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to point out about Sigma?
No, I mean that's basically it.
Keep on being
it's kind of a more of a niche vector for sure, but you know, there are niches to be filled, and I don't see a lot of Royal. I actually am surprised about how much Royal Wedding stuff I'm not seeing. I'd expect it to be so much more.
What is a niche?
A niche?
Just advertising it.
You mean like niche?
A niche is like a small group that caters to like very specific needs.
Like niche.
No, I know niche.
Oh, you Canadian.
Oh, sorry, is that a Canadian I didn't know you...
Apparently.
Is it niche for you?
Yeah, it's niche.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's
anyway,
niche for us.
Moving right along into our next segment of vector critiques. This week we have a vector called The Pony Odd Couple by Drew Dini. Am I pronouncing that right?
Drew Dini.
Drew Dini. I love that name, Drew Dini.
Would you guys like to start us off? Anything you see?
Yeah, you're not going to clean much up with the duster. Like, there's beer cans and there's tape. And
Let's just dust away that soda
Yeah, that
can.
duct tape is going nowhere.
And that spring coming out of the couch.
That's dangerous.
Just buff that out.
Anyways, actually,
I've got something.
can I just point out that Bon Bon's colors like are pretty noticeably off, like especially in her hair. It's quite purple as opposed to pink.
Yeah, that pink is way too dark.
Yeah.
But even the body colors are a bit weird too. So I definitely recommend using a color guide. We always recommend the same color guide for every single character except for Apple Bloom. But you know, that's besides the point. So use this color guide, and you should be good.
Ah, wait. I just seen what's going on in this photo. There's a duct tape line down the middle of the room.
I totally just get it. And her side's all like cleanly.
Yeah. Her side's all clean and Lara's isn't. I totally get that now.
I totally just got it too. Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody in this freaking room just got that.
That's why she doesn't have her ankles bent, because she's trying not to touch her side. I get it.
Can we just get a round of applause for how much we suck? I've looked at this picture. This person submitted this photo on the first week that we did Vector Club Weekly, and I never got that. I've looked at it every single week, seeing should we critique this or not. Every single, oh my god.
Well, I always wondered, like, why is Bon Bon not kneeling? It's like ponies can kneel so she can reach the filth, and then I was like, I just didn't realize why she's like trying to tip over and clean on her side. That's cute.
And Lyra's like, stay on your side.
So Fluttigar, you had something?
Yeah, to get back on topic of critiquing. Her eyes aren't ellipses. Lyra's eyes aren't ellipses, actually.
Lyra's not.
Yeah, they're kind of lumpy,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah, it looks like Drudini tried to use paths to create kind of a circular eye, but you should definitely use ellipses and clipping or masking, depending on the program.
Definitely see that at the bottom of her left iris.
Yep,
Left? Which left? Their left or our left?
Our right. Our right.
left.
Her
All
left.
right, there we go.
her left.
I mean, in terms of technical stuff, there's not a whole lot. Your vectors look pretty good. All of your stuff comes to a point. It's a bit hard again with these kind of custom vectors, especially ones with backgrounds and stuff, to really go super in depth with them. We tend to give a little bit more leeway to things like comics or, super complex backgrounds or stuff. We tend to give a little bit more leeway for that because we feel, especially for comics when you're doing like 10, 15 ponies in like one comic, it's just a bit ridiculous to get there. And especially like this one, this is never going to be used as a resource. Like, we can still give you tips to make it look as good as possible, but it's never going to be used quite like an individual pony would as a resource. So we're a little bit lighter in terms of that.
Well, so to comment on things, if you wanted to make this more show accurate, the things that stand out the most to me are their ears. They're slightly a bit wide, and then where it tips or curves is a little bit not closer to the center of their head instead of the center of the ear. And then the crease on their ear is on the lower bottom half when it should be towards kind of the middle top area. It's kind of hard, but along the side of the ear.
Yeah, the ear looks
more.
like a D as opposed to like symmetrical. It should be more symmetrical, like not perfectly symmetrical, but it should be more like the point, the quote unquote curved point. It's not actually a point. A burn would kill me. But the point, finger quotes, should come like generally in the middle of the ear, as opposed to right now it looks like a D.
Yeah, we like to use the word tip.
There you go. That's much better. See, I couldn't think of it.
And what is it? Lyra's left eye with her eyebrow coming down. Her right eye has the eyebrow as part, or her eyelash as part of her eyebrow, which is correct. And then on the other eye, she has her 3 eyelashes, which is normally fine if the eyebrow is like a little bit higher. But normally when the eyebrow comes over the eye, the top eyelash joins that eyebrow. So now it looks like she has 4 eyelashes when that's actually the eyebrow. And I mean, if you join those two and then separate out the eyelashes, it usually looks a little bit more show accurate as well. And then on Bonbon's eyelashes, she has the 3 eyelashes there. She has the same eye structure as Pinkie Pie. So on the bottom there should be 3 eyelashes, and then on the top there should be those 3 eyelashes, but they should be a little bit more spaced out and a little bit more curved.
Does Bonbon have the same as Pinkie Pie, or does she have the same as Rarity? Because Rarity has 4, I believe, doesn't she?
Yeah, but Rarity has the like teardrop eyes, or the pointed eyes. There's a point at the front and then a point at the back, and then she has you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like Twilight.
Yeah.
Where Pinkie Pie has oval eyes like Rainbow Dash, but curved eyes or curved eyelashes like Twilight.
Okay, well,
And-
I think overall this is pretty well done, and again, we give a little bit more leeway there. The background stuff, I took a quick look through that. It's not really what we were focusing on, but it seems solid. There's no fill errors or stroke errors that I could see at the beginning, so good job there. But other than that, yeah,
Yep.
I would definitely say this is a pretty good vector.
Last thing I'd like to throw in there is on like Bonbon's proportions are pretty decent, but her mouth is maybe a little bit large, and maybe her head isn't quite as circle as it.
Yeah, maybe it should be squished. Her entire head should be squished in, just thinned a little bit.
Yep.
Anyways, let's move on to the next one. So the next one is from Nerdy Rockstar, and it is Octavia in the Tub. Now, this one, I know we just literally picked this up. This was probably submitted to us like 30 minutes before this podcast started. But this person really requested, they wanted a lot of critique for this. And as you can see, just from an initial look, it's not quite show accurate. So we want to kind of, get through the big issues here and how we can fix them. So what's the first thing you guys see?
The first thing that I see is thin strokes. The strokes are very thin, about a third of what show accurate would be.
I think that's a big
Yeah.
mistake that a lot of people make when they do original style stuff. I mentioned this last week, but people don't realize how thick the outlines of the show actually are. They're not like other cartoons where they have thin black ones. These ones have thick colored ones. So yeah, definitely recommend. Boost those strokes like crazy.
Yeah, and speaking of colored outlines, the outlines on the feet of the tub, it looks kind of cel shaded, like Borderlands kind of, with the black outline. That should probably be maybe a lighter shade of gray to go with the white instead of being that black.
Yeah. All that actually, I was thinking about what color to make that. Light shade of gray would be really good. Because like all old-fashioned cartoons and most things all have black outlines, and that's really like the conventional way to do cartoons. And like Samurai Jack was one of the first to break those on like Cartoon Network. And then in My Little Pony, it had there's no black outlines in the show. Everything's always like more saturated or darker color of the outline of the character or what it's around.
I actually have, if I may talk for just a second, because we have more time, I feel like I can ramble a little bit more this podcast. But
Go for it.
I was thinking about how the outlines were working in the show the other day because I think about ponies too much. And I was thinking about how other cartoons work with it, and it's really amazing how they worked this in. They wanted to keep it very colorful. I think you'll notice, for example, Pinky Dash made some color guides, and in the color guides he took the vectors of ponies and put them to black outlines, which was kind of a cool original style thing, and it was so that they stuck out against the background. And what I noticed there was that they look quite odd, and they didn't look quite as colorful as they do in the show. And the show does a really good job about that. They say, how can we make it pop, and how can we keep it colorful? Obviously, to make something pop from the background, normal cartoons use that black outline. That'll make it immediately separate from the background. But the show said, well, that's not going to keep our colorful aspect. So they added those colored lines. But there's a problem there. If you have thin, colorful lines, then it's almost like the colors fading out into the background, and it puts them even more into the background. So the solution to that was make the outlines colored and make them thick. So it's very obvious that that's the outline. So they actually did a really smart thing there, and I think that's really helps with the animation style and how the show looks and how it keeps itself so colorful, but still keeping stuff popping up from the backgrounds.
Yeah, and they're always a similar color, so it's always like a darker color, so you can tell that it's part of that object or character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't even have borders on a lot of things. They'll just keep it unbordered. Like Rainbow Dash's Cutie Mark is the first thing that comes to my head.
Mm-hmm.
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 Anyway, more on this vector. The other thing that I notice is this time the ears are not pointed, but they seem to be tilting outwards a little bit, almost making her look a little mousy instead of horsey. Excuse my pun.
I always thought Octavia looked a bit mousy.
Yeah.
And then it's probably the color. But and then again, the creases on her ears are a little bit towards the bottom hand side rather than towards more the middle top area. And they should be right along the side.
Okay. I sort of tuned out for a bit there, so I may have missed if somebody said it. But the ends of almost all of the strokes are square.
Ah.
That's such a basic thing that we've talked about now, but I don't think I've seen one thing that needs to be square, so all of them.
No.
It'd be the bottom legs of the tub and then some parts in the stroke of her hair.
Yeah.
There's her eye making her happy sort of scene thing. The eyes are square at the end.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it looks
shouldn't
like
be.
the miter limit on all those is fine, but since that ties into the problem.
There is one place where the miter limit is a little bit off in the very front corner of her inner main line. It basically corners into a flat when it should be pointed. So that's miter limit. If you're in Inkscape, just turn that up so that you get that nice crisp point.
Yeah, there's a couple of them all over the place. I mean, you can see even in her neck as it reaches that bubble, like the line just kind of abruptly ends. Like I'm not sure if you were experimenting there and you didn't intend for that bubble to be transparent. There's a bunch of transparency things in this.
I think what might have happened is the vector artist on this, since he was working with such thin strokes, he just used them as are and then left them that way. That's why the ends are square. I think he just managed to skip the step where when you have the larger strokes that would be larger than this, is if you're working with Inkscape, you would convert them to fills, like use stroke to path, and then you would delete or get rid of or join the end points of those square strokes to make them pointed. So for the eyes, the neck, and then the tip of the mane and things like that.
The only thing I could sort of see with the eyes, apart from the squarish ends, was they are huge. Like, I know this is done from a sketch, or it's original, but they are really huge.
I feel like if she were to just open them, like lasers would shoot out and I'd just explode.
I feel like she would be able to see into me if her eyes were open.
She's just super, super happy.
Yep.
Like, that's not even Pinkie Pie happy, so that's not possible.
That's
How would we
beyond
fix
Pinkie Pie.
those?
Just like squish them. Not squish them, but like make them not as tall. Like at the moment they're like mountains. You want them to be not so mountains. Like
Yeah.
maybe like 2/3 of their size, probably.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's a quote of the week right there. Pinky Dash, make them not so mountains.
that's great.
Well, if only you were in the Skype chat, there would be many more quotes.
If I was making pony eyes, I think how I would change them is.
I found another error.
Ooh, do you want to share? Do you want to share that?
Yeah, hang on, my computer just froze. Hang on, there we go. All right. Her right ear at the top stroke at the bottom where it meets the mane, it goes all strange there for a second. Also, one other thing that I'll point out that I see quite a bit, although maybe not so much of an issue with this one, but it sort of looks like it might be. The top part of the mane on top of the pony's head is part of the mane that hangs down below, like the back of the head. Then I know you make them as two separate things, but if you think about it in real life, ponies sort of they're the same thing. They join onto each other. I see a lot of the time where the top part of the mane curves completely differently to the bottom part of the mane. It looks strange.
That differs from pony to pony. With like Rainbow Dash, her head stroke kind of dips in towards her ear, and then her mane comes out from her ear. So they're not connected. They kind of create a divot there because that's where her hair parts, is right there behind her ear.
Right.
I've always done mine the same, but
I found something which is kind of interesting. Octavia's neck is slightly translucent, slightly transparent. So I think Nerdy Rockstar probably was playing around with the opacity of the bubbles and accidentally selected her neck as well. Make sure that all of the things that are supposed to be fully opaque are fully opaque. And also, the tub is slightly blurred on the edges. Not like a raster blur, but like in Inkscape, if you add a blur, a little bit of a blur. I'm not sure if that was intentional, because it kind of looks a little bit off.
I'm not sure what the tub was supposed to be. I mean, I understand. I think what ended up happening was this person kind of made it in their spare time, and they were just, fooling around. They didn't have any references or anything. Which, by the way, good job without any references.
Without any references.
Very hard without any references.
Pretty spot on.
So what they did with the tub was they probably made the tub non-blurred, and they looked at that and they probably went, "Oh, this looks crappy, but I want to finish this. So like, how can I make it look?"
So they just
kind of blurred it and added that shine effect.
The tub would look really good with a stroke on it.
Yeah.
With its current blur right now. To sort of finish up the face, to again make it more show accurate, like if you're working with a sketch or something, it would be to shrink down the eyes. Make sure the points on the inner side of the head are lower than the points on the outer side of the head, and then make sure that your very last eyelash, so the bottom eyelash on the outside, is part of that eye stroke. We have a really good tutorial for that Rainbow Plasma will post in the comments of the podcast. And then for the center of the nose, it would go in between those eyes instead of over them. Right now, the eyes are underneath that nose stroke. And then the nose stroke would be a little bit higher than the nostrils, and the nostrils would be a little bit more spread out, and that'll give it more of a pony face. You probably want to find a good reference for that. There's a lot out there that are adorable in our gallery.
You're adorable.
In terms of not having a reference, this is really good.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I think that's enough for now. Again, this is one of those ones that the person who made it kind of knows that it's not quite up to standard, just because of, circumstances, whether or not it be old, like last week's, or, just, I had no references, and I want to see if I can do it, which I feel like was kind of the attitude with this one. So, good job all around. Again, like, this is kind of the reason why we recommend references, is because there's a lot of, very common mistakes like those pointed edges and stuff that you won't miss when you have the references.
Moving right along to question and answers. Our first question is by Timmy Fuba, and he asked, how much effort do you put into searching for errors before publishing your vector?
I put in a lot. I basically will go over every stroke and make sure I don't have any stroke or fill errors, kind of overflowing or underflowing, and I will, if I think something looks a little off, I will talk to the other admins of the group or other people and give them the vector for a critique before I submit it.
Probably not a good habit of mine, but I always upload it to DeviantArt, and then I look at it there for errors, so then I constantly am going back and resaving and re-uploading, resaving.
Wow.
Yeah,
How many edits do you do?
I think on the birthday present I just did for a friend, I re-uploaded it maybe 7 or 8 times.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
See, I don't do any of that. I make it, and then I save it completely, and then I export it as a PNG, and then I go through and have a look in the PNG for any errors that I can see there, because I just find them easier to find in the PNG than I do in either the Photoshop file or the Inkscape file. I just find it easy to find them in the PNG. And then I'll go back and fix it. I normally have to do that a couple of times. And if anyone's ever actually watched my stream, you'll see that I do that, and I've seen a few people have pointed out things that I haven't seen in my stream. So that works.
I think being a vector inspector is a big part of it, because now that I've had to look at other people's stuff for common errors and uncommon errors, you start noticing on your own stuff. But definitely passing it around to other people helps. I always pass it to the admins, basically being like, hey, see anything wrong with this? And then I post it.
What we always like to tell people is one of the best ways to learn is to go out and try to critique vectors. Even if you're not too sure what you're talking about, just attempting to try to find things and constructive feedback, especially on things like r/My Little Pony vectors. Even if you're trying to learn sketching, going to My Little Pony drawing school, great subject for that. And just attempting to do critiques on people's proportions is an amazing way to learn.
All right, let's move to the next question. This one is by a familiar face, Triox404. I got your name right. Yes! and he asks 2 questions that are kind of tied together. What is your most favorite vector that you've done, and least favorite? So does anyone want to start us off?
Sure, I'll start off. I think my most favorite vector that I've ever done was my zombie Lyra. Sorry. Just because of...
What's a Lyra?
Don't you get that name wrong. I'll hunt you down.
Just because it was my first try at shading a vector, and it actually turned out fairly decent, I think. So it was probably the funnest for me to do, and I think it came out pretty well. And my least favorite, it was probably my confused Sweetie Belle, because basically the only reference I had was her head, and I had to come up with the rest of her body, and I was no good at proportions back then, so...
Was that the first time you tried to add on a body to a vector?
No, I've done it before, but it was just such a weird pose that I had to work with, so, yeah.
I actually remember critiquing, before either one of us was vector inspectors, I remember critiquing your Sweetie Belle one on the on the Reddit subreddit. Anyways, I have a very simple favorite and least favorite because of the same thing. It is my Mecha Lyra vector that I did back in April. I ended up doing this right when the finale was doing, so like I started it right before the finale, I watched the finale, and then I finished it like 6 hours later after the finale had finished. And it looks amazing, and like it's got like claws that have all like tons of shading. Again, this is like my first attempt at shading, and it came out really well. So, it looks really awesome, so that's why I love it. But at the same time, every single time I look at it, I can remember myself having to do every single one of those freaking lines.
The anger.
And like having to come up with half the shading, and oh my god. And it took, I think this was probably 8 hours of work into that vector. So it was rough. It was rough. was worth it though.
Pinky Dash?
Okay, so I had to think really, really hard, and I still couldn't actually come up with anything good to say that I didn't like or did like. But actually, it was fairly easy. So I lie. It's fairly easy for me to come up with one I don't like, and even though I never actually submitted the vector by itself, the one that I've got on my page, I've done nothing productive all day, I actually made that vector, and it was in Illustrator, and I hated every bit of it. Like, if you guys probably wouldn't know, but the viewers wouldn't know, but everyone in the Skype chat, all the vector inspectors know I hate Illustrator because it gives me nothing but problems. And it makes me want to throw my computer out the window, which I almost did. So that vector is very easily my least favorite. It's also not the best quality vector, which is why I never actually put it up as a vector. It's only there as the GIF. But if you see the preview for it where it says animated on the bottom, that's the vector. As for my most favorite, I couldn't actually think of it because everything that I make I love. But if you're really forcing me to say something, I would say probably the wallpaper that I made of the Pinkie Pie party cannon.
Yeah,
that's probably my most favorite.
Yeah. That one's great.
Or the Pinky Dash vector I did fairly recently because I loved the original sketch. I loved it so hard, and then I made a vector of it, and I like it.
No, really?
I have to say that I like working with if I have a choice over Inkscape or Illustrator, I like working with Inkscape, but Illustrator I do enjoy because it's the closest UI from Photoshop, and that's what I'm most used to. But again, when I think, I'm just working with Photoshop, and then try a Photoshop hotkey and it doesn't work in Illustrator, I'm just like, oh.
No, I was yelling very loud at my computer.
All right. Well, I have two of my favorite vectors. I can easily say are my top vectors. It was the third vector I did, or it was actually I think the first vector I managed to do, but it was right when I was learning how to vector, and I vectored Egophiliac's comic of What's in a Name Part 2, and she never finished it or colored it, and so I wanted to do that, and I thought it was an awesome thing to do, and the comic still just touches me. If you'd like, you can go to my profile and watch it, or we'll link it. So, you know, me. But that's by far my favorite vector. And then I took a piece out of that vector, which I put a lot of time and heart into, which is the mother smiles at the bottom, which always gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. And I use that for my icon for everything. And I absolutely love that vector. But as far as not favorite, I've only done vectors that I enjoy. So I don't think I have a not favorite. Oh, well, I'll say my least favorite that I have in my gallery is my That's Not an Apple Tree Cheerilee vector, because it's a lie. It's a fake. It's not an actual vector. I took a PNG of someone, because someone requested that there was a full version of this vector, and they just wanted a PNG. So I took a PNG of just Cheerilee's face, and then vectored on her bottom half. So her legs and tail are a vector, but her head is a PNG. So
so weird.
That's my lie, my shame that I have in my gallery. That's not
cheating.
Buy some apples.
I'm not sure if I should censor that or not.
Did you call yourself a group manager?
It's actually, don't tell anyone, but it's actually featured in the Vector Cup gallery.
Hey, okay.
Hey, whoa.
And what a great way to end the episode. Nobody heard that. Oh, no, but seriously, that's the end of the episode. So thank you guys for listening once again. This week was kind of weird because we had no news, so we ended up rambling a lot. So I don't know if you guys will like this more or like this less, but as always, give us back your feedback. Start sending in your vectors and your questions, because we're actually starting to run a bit low. So it's always good for you guys to send those in if you have any
more awesome stuff to critique.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that'd be amazing.
And yeah.
And other than that, I don't think we have anything else to talk about. So
stay tuned for some awesome stuff coming your way.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you liked this format over our older format, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we can always spend less time on news. We try to give everything even, but if you guys like this more rambly one, then yeah, we'll go for that in the future.
Yeah. Thanks again for watching, guys.
Yeah,
see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Meow.
So anyways, let's move on to questions. Does anybody want to run the questions?
Sure. So, our first question is, again, by Triox44, and his question is, Tell a quick story on how...
What the fuck are you talking about? Those are
about?
unused questions.
Unused.
Okay, so Bird's not running the Q&A.
I want to do it.
No.
Okay, no. Alright, I got this.
Run the
Not
entire thing
Triox.
again.
That was from... Okay,